I didn't say that. But thanks, guys. It felt very good. I'm gonna call my wife now. Wait for a couple of minutes. So let's get going. You can start the clock. Identity and access management in Azure. I'm Sakari, Azure CEO, founder of Finland Azure User Group, part of this IglooConf, and then we have this podcast, Ikkuna Studio. Azure is a company that does 100% Azure platform and service. Our satisfaction last month was 4.6 out of 5, and on average, our technical people have 14 years of experience. Cloud identity is the new black. Now, I'm not that keen on cloud identity or identity and access management or any of that stuff. But it's a thing I've been and our guys have been running into like face first, full plant for the last couple of years. It's just there. It's new black because it's everywhere. How many of you guys are developers? Pretty many. How many of you guys are managing things in the cloud? Pretty many. So hybrid people here. It doesn't matter which one you are. I understand that for the managing people, identity is something they have to worry about. So, crap. And for the developers, well, the same, the crap. So I promise you, this is the most boring talk you will have in IglooConf this year. So from this moment on, it will be all uphill, downhill. Whichever way is better. It's still better what you'll have after this. So this is like half boring and half ranting because I'm angry about some points in the identity thing. So, bear with me. So about IAM, it's simpler than you think. Let's look at the things what it is soon, but it's simpler than you think. Why does it feel so difficult? Because it has cumbersome processes. It's political animal. In large corporations, there's lots of people who have opinions, committee decisions. There's legacy. Identity and access management is very old, and therefore there's varied technology. There's protocols. There's SAML and OAuth and OpenID Connect, and there's Kerberos and Windows authentication, lots of stuff. But still, at its base, it's easier than you think. User experience is getting more important. It's tied into identity and access management nowadays when you're talking about how do people log in? Can they reset their password? Who is able to do that stuff? Who do I have to call that in 6 weeks someone has a user profile? It's related to everything. If you are into analytics, you are doing, Azure Data Lake and Hadoop or HD Insight, it's in there. If you're doing web apps, it's in there. Web APIs, API management, it's in there. Integrations, in there. So it is the black. So it impacts velocity and agility very much. The traditional classic way, if you are familiar with larger corporations, is that you ask for a user account, and 6 weeks later you get a question about it. So that's an awesome process. That's very slow. And the other end could be, I wish we were in a world where you yourself, as a manager, as a developer, as a whatnot, you could create this user and it would be done like this, like immediately. That would be awesome. So this kind of thing, if you're in a project and you know there are identity and access management issues, you already know in the kickoff of the project that, hey, I gotta raise this flag so that we have the users up in 6 weeks, after we've been coding for 3 sprints. What do we have? First couple of slides about identity and access management. Then we are going to define the environment and app concept where my rant is coherent or makes sense. Then we are going to look at the Azure AD/B2C just a bit, not much. I'm not going to dive into those. I'm going to look at the things from other perspective. And then there are 3 different scenarios for the identity and access management I've run into. The classic way, what it is right now, some crappy ways it is right now, and some not so crappy ways, but still crappy ways it is right now. And then what I believe will be the future of identity and access management. And I might be 100% wrong, but I gotta say something, right? Identity and access management. How many of you can raise your hand, honestly, and be like, okay, I know what is identity and access management. What's in there? Hand up now. Carl, that's nice. Couple other, shut up. Couple other guys. But it's look up the word monster. So it's basically this. So there's this dude Balrog, and there's this other dude Gandalf, and they're at the caves of Moria. And this Balrog guy comes over and he's like, hola. And Gandalf's like, who that? And Balrog's like, Balrog. And Gandalf's like, yeah, you are. Identity verified. Authenticated. What's up? And Balrog's like, gotta eat the hobbits. Gotta get the food. And then Gandalf's like, oh, gotta check the authorization. Is he allowed to eat them hobbits? No, he's not. Shall not pass. I know that's not a picture of Gandalf. That's what Google gave me. So that's what we are going with. He's handsome, so it works out. So this is the deal. Authentication, the verification of identity. You know who it is who's trying to do something. It's verified identity. And then authorization. Can this verified identity do this stuff they want to do? Simple. So we can split it up in parts. We have identity where we have central identity, me, Sakari, Nahi, Sakke, da. And I might have several accounts, different systems, to Jira, to Jenkins, to Office 365, to G Suite, whatever. Then there's access. In general, based on role-based access control, in a classic way and in modern and in the future as well. So roles can be whatever. They can be app-specific, viewer, manager, whatever, engineer. They can be titles. I'm a secretary, I'm a manager of teams, I'm a team lead, whatever. But those privileges to different places are tied into roles. Management of users, CRUD. User life cycle. Now we have a person coming in for the summer. In 3 months, that person will be passive automatically. So there's this life cycle that is an automated process. Approval and review workflows. I want to add a user, but I can't because I'm not an IT admin. Someone needs to review, someone needs to approve. And auditing. And technology. These are the 4 facets of identity and access management in general, roughly. Single sign-on, multi-factor authentication, B2B federation, talking about ADFS in the past, and now with Azure AD, we are talking about applications that can be accessed from multiple Azure AD tenants and so forth. And of course, protocols like we just spoke about, like SAML and OAuth and all of that stuff. So that's identity and access management scope, context, sphere. That's it. So let's define a couple of environmental things before we dive into this talk more. So I'm talking of the situation that's very familiar to many of us. We are working with large corporations or we are working in large corporations. So to those of you who are working in a company that has more than 5, 10, 20 people who need these kind of processes, this is about you. So we are talking about an environment with a global needs with thousands of employees. Customers and partners are other companies. Of course, there can be consumer customers as well, but in effect, we are talking about B2B business. Digitalization, of course, it's in the strategy. That's what I want to do. We want to digitalize. It's there. They want to automate. Digitalization has turned from the strategic thing, it's turned into tactical rethinking of process and automating things. And that has led to a situation, or parallelly salespeople or whatever people have decided, hey, in this today's world, our business needs to offer digital services in addition to offering whatever we are offering right now. Or if we are offering digital services already and not just hardware or some other services, we want to offer more digital services or more comprehensive or more sticky so that our users spend there a longer time or they're nicer to use or whatever. But that's the trend of today, right? So they're pushing agility and collaboration through common APIs. Like if your corporation wants to have a lot of digital services, they will of course spend time on building common APIs. Depending on what, it might be a site API or product API or people API or employee API or whatever you can think that are the basic entities of your corporation. Those kind of APIs are usually thought about when corporations are trying to push the agility of being able to build digital services faster, because if you have those, then every development team doesn't have to integrate into SAP or IBM systems or Oracle or whatever, because APIs are easier to use, faster to use. But for all of this to work, this new stack of things, this new way of getting data visible and building digital service on top of it, they need to build a new identity and access management. So that's where we come in. So now I have this concept of an app. It's a global accounts report app. And it shows to internal and external people these accounts, client accounts, and details about them. Whatever details you can think of, like documents and CRM stuff, and maybe orders and purchase history, and so for all kinds of data. And there's all kinds of user roles in this. There's a viewer who can view specified accounts in countries, or analyst who can view specified reports in given accounts, and more. The editor, creator, manager. So that kind of an app, when you think about it, it's very dimensional in how you provide access. Because when a user comes in, you have to check if this user has, of course, he's authenticated, but is he authorized for this country, for these accounts, for these reports in that account? So it's a matrix in a sense, because there are many dimensions you have to check. Now with this story, we look at the Azure AD a bit, and then we dive into these identity access management patterns I've seen. Azure AD/Azure AD B2C, totally different products, 2 products by Microsoft, and these are the main differences. Azure AD Enterprise Environment or Enterprise App. You can start from Azure AD if you have things like that, you are in Enterprise Environment or you're thinking of building an Enterprise App. Start with Azure AD, and if that's not a fit, look at B2C or I don't know, Auth0 or UP-Secure or ForgeRock or whatever. And Azure AD B2C is a product for a diverse set of users, so a SaaS product you are building. Azure AD in general, users are invited. You can invite any email, social media email or whatever, and in Azure AD B2C, users register. That's a difference in use case, how users use it. In Azure AD, there's an easy way to do business-to-business single sign-on to your partners. So they can, if they have Azure AD, it's easy for them to log in. And then in Azure AD B2C, it's easy to do, or well, not so easy, but sometimes easy to do custom policies. There's support for custom policies. Azure AD is often cheaper than expected, while B2C also has custom processes. B2C is also visually more configurable because it's aimed at SaaS offering or SaaS products. Custom processes and policies, well, processes more, can be built on top of either product because they're both programmable, right? They have APIs, you can manage them with PowerShell and so forth. So basically you can just choose one product and modify it. Not how you want, but in large degree, let's say. So we are focusing on Azure AD, not the B2C, Azure AD, because our environment was a global enterprise. So not gonna walk all of those through, but if we are thinking about identity and access management from a feature point of view, what are the features? Then these are the features that are in Azure AD that pertain to identity and access management. There are probably more. But there's stuff like self-service password reset and multi-factor authentication, role-based access control to Azure resources, and user groups. Dynamic groups are groups that if your role is a salesperson, you are automatically added to a sales group, for example. So nobody doesn't have to do that manually. There's logs and there's conditional access. You can only access our Azure with this device or from this location. And just-in-time elevated privileges process, which is pretty new as a process in Azure AD. It's something that an admin could, or you could request for an elevated privileges for yourself, for admin privileges for an hour, and then existing admin or someone else approves it, and then you get those privileges for 1 hour. Then you do what you need to do, and then you're a regular, Joe Schmo again. Missing features when you compare, and this is what it comes to, in your corporation there is already an identity and access management tool and strategy and approach. So there is some tool, and user lifecycle is a big thing that's missing. A custom review and approval and a custom user lifecycle. That's a big part of the IAM tools that Oracle and IBM and these guys are offering. It's about, I got this guy, it's this kind of person, we have this kind of review and approval process, 5 steps, 5 different people, and then it's alive for a year, and then it's passivated automatically. So this life cycle. And traditional federation, meaning ADFS and all of that stuff. Unique features in Azure AD is something that's missing in many identity and access management tools nowadays. It's that client takes care of user, meaning that if you build an app, and you invite someone from the partner, and partner has Azure AD as well, and this partner user leaves the partner company, or gets fired or whatnot, then of course the partner company removes this person from their identity and access management list, right? And suddenly they don't have access to your app. So you don't have to worry about that at all. And it's a big plus. It's something that no other identity and access management tools really have right now easily. And single sign-on without federation. You don't have to do ADFS or any of that old federation, Kerberos, whatever stuff. You just need to have it registered in Azure AD, bam. You got the integration with those partners who use Azure AD as well, which in Finland, Office 365 is pretty pervasive. Globally different thing. So, let's look at the classic identity and access management. The classic, on-premises centric. First, we have an HR solution where people are added. It's from IBM again, or it's SAP, SuccessFactors, or whatever. And when there's people there, they're pushed into identity and access management tool from Oracle or IBM or whatever. And then they are there, the people. And usually in the HR solution, in this classic way, there's people like me, consultants who are partners. They are added into HR, and I have in many corporations, I have managers and supervisors who don't know anything about me, of course, but they are in the HR system because there's a hierarchy of employees. I'm an employee in that system, and well, that's how it works in many places. So from the identity and access management tool, which is about the management and adding those life cycles and review and approval processes and managing the account accesses, it's pushed into Active Directories. There's the primary Active Directory, usually in the classic sense, so on-prem Active Directory, where there's all the employees, in many cases, and then there's another external or secondary or client, or there can be multiple. There can be many AD forests or domains. And in classic way, it's usually so that there's an AD for internal people and partners, and another AD for clients. And then there's trust. The external secondary AD trusts the primary AD. And now when we build an application, Global Account Reports app, we ask via LDAP or some other mechanism, we ask the users from the external Active Directory where the clients are invited, and then the application gets the groups back that are defined in Active Directory, and the application deduces what is the access of this person in these AD groups. So how many of you have been building these kind of applications during the last 20 years where the schema, the identity and access management is based on-prem Active Directory and maybe a secondary forest or domain? Hand up. So you know this. And I think this is wrong. This is something that it's got to change. So the verdict that it's kind of bad. It's bad system. It's been up for years and years. It's bad right now in our scope because the access control is on premises, right? The access from cloud apps and all that stuff, it's difficult. It's bothersome. We don't need that. There are two options that can be used to describe this kind of convoluted dimensional access where an app can show you things by country or by account, by report. You can have hundreds of groups that cover all of those permutations between those dimensions. How many of you have seen hundreds of groups used to control or manage access to web apps? So like, I don't know, some hands, like 10 hands or whatever. So we've seen that some people really do into AD hundreds of groups because the app is complex. And the other way is that AD has a couple of roughly defined groups like Weaver in our demo, who has country-specific access and something, and then when the user logs into application, the application gets information that this person is in Weaver group, and then it checks out metadata from its own SQL storage that, hey, this guy also has only access to Brazil, Australia, or Japan, or whatever. So it has the main group from AD, but then the app has the rest of the privileged information, or privilege setting or configuration information. And this is the traditional thing. This is how it worked before cloud. And this is how it largely works still. So let's look where we are. Let's look at where we are. Now this option is the crappy option. That's 2 or more Azure AD tenants. That's the name of it. So there we have an HR solution, identity access management tool in on-premises again, and still we have the Active Directories, right? But what we do is that we build Azure AD tenants on top of those Active Directories because that's how we done the last 20 years. That's how we done. You know, it's called AD, Azure AD, and this is on-prem AD, so they must be similar. And then we plug the app on top of the Azure AD external because Azure AD is very reachable from cloud and stuff like that. So that's nice, and we don't have to worry about the user storage or any of that identity providership stuff. And then the app that uses privileges, just like in the classic, it has groups and stuff. But this is what happens in many companies right now. And the first thing to this is that Azure AD is not classic AD. But since they're named the same, thank you, Microsoft, Brady, can you just rename the product right now? Can you log in and, I don't know, it's a string somewhere, I guess. So, this just drives people, okay, it's AD, I know AD. There's trust between things, and then there's federation, and then people like me, my mind is exploding. They sound the same, but they're lying. Also, something that comes up, Azure AD is not Office 365. They are separate, even though Azure AD is beneath it, and Azure is a different animal from those as well. So, what are the issues you might run into if you're a corporation or a corporation you know of, or a friend complains to you about this thing? These are the issues you might run into if you continue on the path of multiple Azure AD tenants when you are trying to get a working cloud identity strategy, or how do you call it, program. Same external persons can be in both Azure AD tenants. Let's look at that in next slide more. App and API management issues. Let's look at that in the next slide after next slide more. Trust issues between apps and APIs. Let's look at them. O365 access control issues. That's gonna come back later. Development issues with app registrations. Gonna check it out soon. And costs duplicated. The costs in Azure AD are such that if your corporation is in Office 365 and you have 1,000 employees, your 1,000 employees are in Azure AD and you pay for those, and you have 5,000 free invites for external people. So if you invite 5,000 people from partners or customers or whatever, wherever, they don't cost you anything more. Unless you give them, like, you force multi-factor authentication on them, then of course multi-factor, SMSs and stuff like that, they cost some cents per thing, but still, in general, this is the cheaper than expected part. So, let's look at the user in two tenants thingy. So, you have a customer, a partner, your corporation is going towards collaboration, meaning that your people, project managers, developers, whoever, they are going to invite your pilot customers or best partners or whatever into the tools you use, like Microsoft Teams, or to SharePoint where you have documents, or you want to share, I don't know, calendars. I'm not sure if that's even applicable here, but whatever. There's some way that in the future you are cooperating more with your partners, and then you go to Teams and you're like, hey, I need Raimo here. Let's invite Raimo. You push the Teams button, and bling, Raimo comes as a guest user in your primary Azure AD. So it's there. And then, of course, you build this custom application, global account reports. We've been speaking about this. And you invite Raimo there, because you want Raimo to see the things that you are providing him and whatnot. So, and it's in the secondary Azure AD. So now you have this Raimo people, Raimo person. Maybe there are multiple persons, so it's a people really. Raimo people, Raimo tribe. You have Raimo tribe in two different tenants. So, that's chocolate, right? That's nice. To trying to get an overview or oversight or somehow understand where you have people when you have same persons in multiple tenants where you put differing privileges to them. With one tenant, they access your O365 or other collaboration tools that you use internally with your employees, and with another, they access the application. That's messed up. That's what it is. So, tab registration, it wasn't here, but someone asked me when I spoke about this, what does tab registration look like? And that's something that comes up fast. So let's look at this very fast, what it looks like. Tab registration in Azure, and you get this real feeling. So this is Azure AD, Azure Active Directory. Just search for Active Directory in the portal, you'll find it. And here you have app registrations. This is the preview. Upcoming app registrations is not that dissimilar. New registration. And you give name, my app, best app ever. Then you give supported account types, like is it just for internal people or is it for any organizations? So it's kind of this SaaS kind of thing. You're building something that can be accessed from any Azure AD tenant, from any company, anywhere, and that's fine. Of course, you need to have some additional checks for that. Or that plus personal Microsoft accounts. You choose that. And then after that, you set in the redirect URI. Where do we go? And is it web or public client? That's it. That's how you register application into Azure AD. And after you've done that, it shows up, you get the application client ID. So this is what you use with the libraries that you use in your code to connect to Azure AD. It asks you for the ID, so you just give that, it's done, nice. And then, if you are building a stack of APIs, you go to API permissions and add permissions. So if you want to access Microsoft Graph for, I don't know, Outlook, OneDrive, OneNote, blah, 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 all of this information or some Azure things, or your own APIs, not gonna click here, but your own APIs you build and register here, they will show up in this listing, and then you can click your app and decide if you're gonna want to give this app you are configuring, you wanna give access to this other app as a delegated permission, meaning that I, as a person, log in there. If I go to your application as Sakari and you give in delegated permissions from app to API, I log into your API as Sakari. And then if that logs into Microsoft Graph as Sakari, I log into Microsoft Graph and Office 365 as Sakari, and then SharePoint gives me the files that I can really see. And you don't have to worry about authorization because the delegated thing, my personal credentials are moving there with them. Or application, meaning, you know, kind of a technical admin, this daemon background process kind of access. And once you've done that, you can choose, what can I see? And then this is very nice now that it says admin consent. So if I log as a person, access review, read all access reviews that user can access, it requires consent from the Azure AD administrator to be able to do that. So that's what app registration looks like. That's it. That's what you do. So now we are going to dive into more of the reasons why we shouldn't have multiple Azure AD tenants unless we have a very good reason. So, app registration in 2 tenants. There's this app for externals. We've registered in Azure AD. There's a person at customer.com who's trying to log in, right? So it calls for accounts API. You, as a corporation, has this accounts API that offers your common account information to all the apps that might need it, right? And that guy accesses Office 365 because you have in your emails or SharePoint or something, you have some information pertaining to the accounts of your customers. So this API wants to return those documents or links to them as well. So then you register both of these apps into the Azure AD O365, the main Azure AD you have, where your employees are, because that is the only way you can access your Office 365 data. If you register them to the secondary Azure AD externals you have, sure, you can register them there, but you don't have the data access. So then some of the accounts API endpoints work if it doesn't require the Office 365 access, and some of them don't. Now that sounds nice. Who knows which action works and which doesn't, depending on how the user logged in. But can I still have 2 tenants? Like, you know, I kind of believe you that there might be these issues, but I want to have 2 tenants because I'm scared of having a single tenant. I need to have 2 tenants. Sure you can. Nice joke, right? You just have 2 tenants. Then you have your Office 365 data. You fetch data from somewhere. Then you have these APIs, accounts API, person API, documents API, orders API, I don't know, all kinds of common APIs. You are providing data to all of your development teams. Right? You have multiple teams building multiple apps, so you have these common APIs they're accessing. So those green ones fetch data from the green blob, so they are registered to Azure AD. So this person API is registered to the secondary Azure AD. So then we have this global account reports app. That fetches data from all the APIs. So then it's registered in both Azure AD tenants. So then we have a user who's logging in, and then we need to register this person API. See? We need to register that to the second one as well, because this user is logging into one of those Azure AD tenants with his user, right? So if he's logging into external, we need to register all of those APIs in the secondary one as well. So you have more apps. So this guy goes there. There are more APIs. So it's a so yeah. So that's where you get. Totally possible, nice to code. Please have many identity providers in your application. That's fun to maintain. So what it would require, so it would look like all the user would need to do before he or she logs in. He would need to think before he or she logs in what feature they want to use today. Like I know it beforehand. Then they go to your website and they log in with the correct button. So there's 2 login buttons that look similar. The other one says, hey, with me, you can work with these features that don't require the access to your O365. And the other button goes where it's like all custom. And what's best is that the user, when he presses the button, any button, it goes into Azure AD login. That looks similar, that you log in with the same user and same password. So I think this is a good idea, it's a horrible idea. That's an insanely bad idea. Please challenge me. So as a recap, do not have 2 Azure AD tenants. And no, 3 is worse. Unless I can figure out 2 reasons why you would maybe want to have. One is very clear. You are doing some development on your Office 365 and you need to set up a development and testing environment for your Office 365 plugins or add-ins or whatever you are playing around with there. That's easy. Then you set up this another O365, another Azure AD comes with it, you invite the people you want to pilot with, and then it's done, it's scoped. It's single responsibility. It's nice, it's fine. And the other one, more hazy, more difficult, I know, is organizational management boundary requirement, meaning that if your corporation is such that you have things everywhere globally, and this admin in Australia or people in Australia cannot see your employees in Europe, and you need to have admins and people in Europe, then you need to have more Azure AD tenants. Then you'll need to have, because Azure AD users, the regular users and admins, they see and they can do stuff. There's no way to set up boundary that's abstract or organizational within the Azure AD once people have that full access. So this is one reason. So if you have a huge corporation and you need to work like Countryly or something, personally, I would try to find out another way, because in this way, if you have Azure AD, like 5 Azure ADs globally, in that way, building out common enterprise-wide applications and APIs will be hell. But still, that's sometimes the case. That's sometimes needed. And it's just important to understand that if that's required, it's gonna cost. So, the verdict is worst. Apps are slow to develop, difficult to maintain and understand with a bunch of trusts and registrations going on. User doesn't know how to log in, where to log in, which login to use. There are duplicate users everywhere. You try to manage those, and there's cost, but the benefits are slim. The only benefit I've seen is that it eases people's minds if they have this, multiple products for different people, but it's not even true. So, crappy 2. Again, it begins with the HR solution and identity and access management tool. These are the baseline that you have in all the corporations right now. It goes to Active Directory, but on top of the primary Active Directory, you have a single Azure AD where you have your employees and all that. And then in addition, what we've seen is that there's this cloud identity and access management. It might be, it might be UPsecure based, it might be ForgeRock, it might be Auth0, it might be any of these products, and they are fine products, and there's features there that aren't in Azure AD, I'm sure, and all that stuff. But what happens is that when you have this situation, you again have 2 identity providers where you divide between employees and external people, except that that O365 Azure AD tenant contains external people as well, because you invite them with Office tools to seeing and chatting and collaborating with you. So again, both of those. So what we've seen, what happens when a corporation does this kind of dotted dashed line appears where a client logs into global account reports app. It's sent primarily because the domain doesn't match our corporation, it's sent into the external cloud identity access management tool. And then what then happens is that if this cloud identity access management tool doesn't find this client user, it then asks for it from the Azure AD because it might be there. And so it's better than 2 Azure AD tenants. This way of having 1 Azure AD tenant and something else is better than having 2 Azure, that's my opinion. Duplicate users, benefits are unclear. Why support 2 identity access managements for cloud identities? Don't know. And all the developer teams and maintaining and all of that needs to support every application so that they support 2 identity providers. So, current cloud identity patterns, not so crappy. What we've seen? Single cloud identity, HR solution, identity access management tool, Active Directory. There usually is the secondary or many of these other domains first. It's gray because it usually exists, if not for future purposes, then for legacy purposes because there's applications on premises, right? But then there's Azure AD. And what we do differently from the previous images is that instead of having a secondary or additional identity access management storage or tool for clients, we invite those clients to our Azure AD, to the primary storage or provider, and then our application can, so elegantly, only connect to 1 identity provider. We like that. So what is this inviting people into Azure AD? So they are guest users. And guest users are invited from other Azure AD tenants, right? So I'm in my Azure tenant, and I want to invite Brady, and I just invite Brady G at Microsoft.com, and then he's a guest user. He is a full user in the Microsoft tenant, and he's a guest user in Azure AD tenant. And what if this email, what if Brady's doing something shady? Wouldn't be surprised. So he's like, hey dude, invite me, I'm like Brady at hotmail.com. I don't want to use my Microsoft account, or I don't know, something else. So if it's an email, and it can be any email, if it's an email you invite to your Azure AD tenant, and the other party or corporation or group doesn't have Azure AD, then Microsoft very handily creates this ghost tenant. So if you have a client that doesn't have Azure AD and you invite those people, let's say the domain is company.com, this kind of ghost tenant, company.com, is created and the users are there. And if at a later point the company.com owner sets up an Azure AD, then this ghost tenant is merged into this new entity that is created that has and owns this company.com domain. And if it's hotmail.com, so this social media account, Microsoft has created these pre-made ghost tenants, and people just go there, but it's a different kind of tenant. It's a special tenant because they don't see each other or any of that stuff. So it's possible as well. So you can invite hotmail.com. Not sure if you had, if it's smart, if you look at the company policies, but still you can do it. So what's noticeable here if you think of GDPR? GDPR. First time I say GDPR here. What's noticeable here is that if you invite guest user into your tenant from partner tenant, and the partner tenant gets rid of this person doesn't have access to your tenant or any of your applications. That's chocolate. That's nice. Automated. Ooh. But if you invite a person with an email that doesn't have a matching Azure AD tenant, and a ghost tenant is born, there's nobody managing this ghost tenant. Right? So if this person is then let out and this person leaves the partner company, but partner company doesn't know they have this ghost tenant they maybe should manage, then of course it doesn't happen automatically. So that's a good point to know. There's no way to know from your end if this guest user in your Azure AD is from ghost tenant or from a real tenant. But in a previous world, you had to check if people are employed in your partner companies anyway. So this is just better. This is half automated. Lifecycle is managed in another tenant. That's what we spoke about. Any email works. That's what we spoke about. Guests have no access or visibility. So if you are full users in Azure AD, you see other users. But if you invite someone, that guest doesn't see other users. They have no access. They have nothing unless you give it to them. So there's not that kind of fear of they come into your tenant and automatically they have some access. Policies are applicable to these guest users like MFA requirement, multi-factor authentication requirement. So, if you have an application you want to protect and you invite this guest user, you give him or her the group or whatever that has access to application, and then you set up an MFA requirement, they have to multi-factor authenticate into your application. And it's done by Microsoft. What's very cool here is that if the partner tenant they are from, if they have multi-factor authentication on as well, then they need to multi-factor authenticate twice. Multi-factor authentication. That's double the security. Thanks, Microsoft. Brady, can you fix this? Oh, he's on it. Cool. So every user provides 5 guest licenses. We spoke about that already. So single identity and access management, from my admittedly developer-centric point of view, this is the best one of the bunch that currently companies have, because this doesn't cause mess in the oversight of users, in the oversight or management of applications, in the trust between application and APIs. You register the applications in one tenant and then you create trusts. You cannot create trusts between applications, between tenants. They need to all be in a single tenant for that to be possible. So it doesn't help with the issue that it was in classic identity and access management that we haven't really looked at yet. The issue of having hundreds of groups so that you can, as a user or as an application developer or application, you can expect that when user logs in, you get all the relevant authorization information with that login. Instead of having to do something like, hey, this guy is in River group, and then I gotta go to the database and check whatever he can do and all of that stuff. So that's why I think that the future identity and access management will be as follows. Let's look at the processes first. This is what I'm seeing. Will HR solution contain external people? So this solution that contains people that whose expertise you follow and who get bonuses and who have supervisors and managers, well, of course not. That doesn't make sense. There's like vendor relationship management that contains consultants and all of that stuff. So it's a different place for different people. Who creates customers or partners users? Let's say your corporation or whatever has an app and you sell it, someone buys it and you need to add a user. Right now you send an email to IT and IT is swamped, of course, because there's too few of them. So then you wait for 6 to 8 months and the customer is like, oh yeah, this is classic. It's gonna wait 2 months. Oh, of course they do, because that's what happens everywhere. But that's not gonna be the future. The future will be like it is in Teams and every other application. You go there as a business person who sold this thing, and then you press add user, and then you enter the email of your client, and they can log in. They are in. Who defines the privileges? Who defines the groups of this, your partner who is your partner or client? Let's say they have viewer access. Who defines this viewer access, that this viewer has access to this account or this country or these reports out of 20? IT? Of course not. They haven't done that ever. It doesn't make sense. The developers? Well, the developers know they've coded the logic, but is it fun? No, it's not fun. So there needs to be a dashboard. Business knows. They sold this thing, there's 10 reports, they know what this one user can see because they've been thinking, they are the product owner. They told you as developers and managers, what is this app about? It doesn't make sense that we have to do it or know about it. Who should be responsible for the data quality of the identities? Is this person really working there? Is this his real surname? Customer partner itself, of course. You reset your password in all applications right now. How is it possible that in corporations now, when someone uses something and they'll, oh, I forgot my password, they call the IT. What the hell? So towards cloud. Future of the identity and access management. HR will be in cloud, right? CRM is in cloud already. Salesforce, Dynamic, they are there. ERP is going to the cloud. SAP is offering SAP in the cloud, right? So HR is going to cloud as well. And vendor relationship management, all of those things, they're going to cloud. CRM is in the cloud and other enterprise systems are going. Collaboration and integrations with partners, they are in the cloud, right? Your business Whatever your business is doing, it lives by being in contact with your logistics vendors or partners or whoever gives you your stuff or sells or provides maintenance or whatever, your partner. So you need to be closely tied to them. So all the integrations, all the apps they use, they are in the cloud, right? You still have on-prem Active Directory. It's getting smaller because all of this stuff is just going up. Azure AD can already grant access via application proxy to apps in on-premises. Not saying you should do it if there's no benefit. I'm just saying that it's not a bottleneck for moving the identity and access management to cloud. Cloud identity will be central. So instead of the identity being in on-premises where the apps used to live, where they don't live in the future, the identity will live in the cloud, just like your applications, enterprise systems, and all of that. And then you just invite people. That's nice. So step 2 to finish this future identity and access management is that there is need for some kind of an identity and access management tool. I've been calling it App Privileges tool that describes it. So Azure AD gives you a lot of features for identity and access management. But app privileges are the difficult part. How do you define as a group that this person has access to this account in Brazil for this report? That would be a long-ass group, right? It would be longer than what Magnus said your naming convention should be. It would be like 3 lines. So now, where we are right now, right? We spoke about these groups and roles are in identity and access management right now, and privileges are hard-coded in app. App gets this group identifier, group 2, and group 2 can do this. So right now, AD and app defines the privileges. IT manages the groups, and developers define the permissions in code. That's what it is right now. In the future, groups and roles are built out of privileges in a specialized identity and access management tool. So I have some example of that soon. But basically, it means that identity provider, like Azure AD, has the authentication, has the groups, has the roles, but what privileges are in a group or a role, specific like report X, country Y, account Z. Those are in this privilege tool that is accessible by business. So business and clients. Business gives access to user and does the privileges, and the clients use it themselves as well. And this is something that it could look like. So it's just some, I'm sure IBM and Oracle and those guys are already building this, but it's this app that has roles for user, and then view accounts in Brazil, yes, no. Edit accounts in Brazil, yes, no. So it's something that people can understand. How many of you have run into groups in Azure AD that define your app access and you don't know what it does even if you've been developing, like group named group 2? I have. That happens. So future identity and access management, that's good. Because we have all the benefits of having a single record for user. You know, for GDPR, single hardening, single audit, single logs, single endpoints, programmability, and all of that. But we also have self-service for partners and customers so that IT and developers don't have to be there. Takeaways. It's hard to let go of the old processes. So this is something like, if you are familiar with, I bet if you're in a large corporation, there is an identity and access management program going on right now in your company. Maybe you're not aware of it, maybe you are, but I promise it is there. It's there right now, right today, it's there. And there's people there who know of stuff, who are very experts and knowledgeable and all of that stuff, but they might be too close to the thing. They might be viewing it like they viewed it for the last 15 years. You gotta shake them up. You gotta tell them, dude, this is different. So you gotta think your identity around cloud a bit different from on-prem. Azure AD is not your grandparents' AD. Not just technology, but processes as well. It is not a fine process that a user is created by IT. And if you go ask your business people, is it fine that we wait for the IT to create a user when you, Tiina, who sold this thing to Pertti, could create Pertti by pressing invite and having Pertti's email? No business people will say, oh yeah, that's great. I wanna email IT and bother them more. Nobody wants to bother other people, of course not. Teasing. So business will have more power over identities and access. Role of IT will be smaller in this field, but no worry, IT has work to do. There's this cloud thing IT needs to do. What will there be in on-prem? Right? I don't know. There'll be desktops, right? And then something isolated you don't need to access ever. You know, something that is so secret you can't use it to do business, right? Something you gotta get in triplicate so that you can check it every yearly, like national security documents. Although WikiLeaks has been good with that. But that's what you'll have. Of course, the Finnish Defense Forces and all of those guys will have stuff, and as they should have. But other companies, private companies and public companies, they need that data to do work effectively. That's it. Yeah, that's it. Thank you. Oh. So any questions on identity and access management? I know you are all, it's like bubbling up. So exciting area of talk. Sir?
Is it possible to have a guest room?
Yeah. Oh, no. So you don't really, if you invite these guest users from another organization, you don't really know much about them because, of course, the other tenant doesn't want to give you and they can't give you any information, in the basic protocol of, what are their groups in their home organization or any of that stuff. You don't have any visibility into that. Others? It was awesome. I love you all. Thank you. Oh, again? Yeah.